What's going on, guys? How are you? How are you doing? This is Shocks and this is ShocksCapital YouTube channel. Today, we are going to talk about support and resistance. If I ask you today how you were taught support and resistance, you might probably tell me that you were given an example of a floor and a ceiling and a bouncing ball, and you were taught that price always bounces off supply and demand, and that was resistance and support. And today, I have a new way of looking at this support and resistance that is going to be profitable to you. So how do you do it? So follow through until the end so that you understand all the ins and outs of how to look at this particular thing. So if we are to understand what support and resistance is and how to trade it, you would go back to your elementary Forex books and they will tell you that the third touch is where the bounce is going to come off. And if you can see clearly, you can see that looking at this chart, we have this area that we've marked here with the red horizontal line, and this area is supposed to be your resistance area. So the best way of trading this is to actually not trade the bounce. The best way is to wait for an aggressive break. Remember, I said an aggressive break, and that is what you have to wait for. So if you look at this particular zone, you clearly see that we have the first touch here in consolidation, then we have second touch, third touch, and the third touch did not go to the other side of what? Of support, as we were taught, right? So how do you do it? You wait for a break at this particular zone. So it left a pin there, which means there is now money resting at this particular one, resting at this particular zone. After waiting for an aggressive break, you find what we call a fair value gap or an order block just below it. So remember, whenever price breaks out a support or a resistance zone aggressively, it leaves an inefficiency gap that we call fair value gap or an order block, right? If you look closely at this particular zone, at this particular area, you see that we have what you call a three candle formation that you can see. We have one candle here, the green ones, and we have this big one and this third one, and the final nail to the coffin that broke the resistance, right? So if you look at this, you see that we have this gap that you can mark off. So this gap that we are talking about, this gap is what we call the fair value gap. And this candlestick here that started, the opposite candle that started this rally to break resistance, is what you call your order block. So we are looking at these two things and we waiting for price to retest those two zones so that we can get in our trade in the direction of the break. Do you understand? So in a nutshell, that's how you trade support and resistance. So we wait for a break. So these are the rules. Number one, you wait for what? For an aggressive break. Number two, you identify an order block or a fair value gap as we did. Number three, you wait for a retest of those two zones. Number four, you enter your trade. Number five, you make money. So those are the 5 rules that you have to use when you are using support and resistance, and dish out that phenomenon of the bounce, right? It doesn't bounce, right? If it bounces, it doesn't go to your take profit. And I know you guys have been a victim of this before. So let's look at this one. There is resistance in this area, right? These are equal highs, right? As you can see. So we are looking at this particular one, right? So this is your resistance. Why? Because we have first touch here, and where's the second touch? The second touch is here. And where's the aggressive break? The aggressive break is right there. The aggressive break is right there. And you might be asking yourself, where is the fair value gap? And if you zoom in, you can clearly see that we did not have a gap in this particular one, in this particular zone, but we had an order block or a zone, a demand zone that you can use in this in this area, and see what price did. See what price did. Price just came, retested this order block, and went off like that. So these are the setups that we are looking for. So number one, what do you look for? You look for a break, or you look for a zone that price might break, which is a support or resistance zone where price has touched more than 3 times. We have this touch, we have this touch there, and what do you see? We have a break, an aggressive break there. So after this aggressive break that you can see, what do you look for? Remember, you are looking for an order block or a fair value gap, as you can see, and you wait for price to come back to that particular zone. And you might be asking yourself, if you are using fair value gaps, where then do you put your stop loss? Remember, I said A fair value gap is a three candle pattern, a three candle formation. If you look closely at this particular zone, you clearly see that we have three candles. Let me just mark them up so that you can see. We have these three candles, and where is your gap? Your gap is at this particular point, and at this particular what? At this particular point. So this is your gap. So after this fair value gap, where is your stop loss supposed to go? Your stop loss is supposed to go at the last candle of the formation, which means we have three, right? When you mark your fair value gap, your stop loss goes below this steady candle that makes up that particular what? Fair value gap. Right, let's look at another example. This is Euro USD H4 on TIOmarkets. And remember, guys, if you're looking for a reliable broker to trade this strategy with, look no further than TIOmarkets, and I have links in the description down below that you can click right now, register, complete your KYC and deposit, and start trading like a boss. So here, what do we have? We have what? We have resistance in this area where price is just hitting and bouncing off, right? So what do you wait? Remember, number one, you are waiting for an aggressive break, right? So this is an aggressive break that you see, and it was a break with a gap, right? So this is the aggressive gap, right? So what do you look for next? After identifying your aggressive move, you look for an order block or a fair value gap. So in this case, we have this order block right here. And what did price do? Price took out that resistance area and came back and retested an order block just below it, and you are going off to the moon, right? So your take profit would be this area first. Why? Because that's the next high where we are having liquidity resting above it, and we break this and we go off like that. Let's look at more examples so that you guys can understand what we are talking about. Number one, what do you look for? You look for a resistance or support area where price retested many times, and this is such an area where you are seeing this is a retest, this is a retest, this is a retest, and this is a retest. So what are you waiting for? You are waiting for an aggressive break. So where is the aggressive break? The aggressive break is here. So this was the break. And where is your fair value gap and your order block? You will see clearly that we have those in this area. And what did price do? Price came and took out you and your friends at this particular zone. So what did you do? You just took a loss. And this is just to show you that this strategy is not 90% or 100% correct. You are going to take some losses, and what you have to do is to take every chance so that you stake the odds of yourself winning into your favor, right? So let's look at a trade that was successful, and in this case we are looking at this zone right here where we are having a break at this particular zone right here. And where are you having your order block after the break? Your order block is here, and that was a very beautiful, successful trade, as you can see. So if you are looking at this particular zone here, what do we see, and what support and resistance can we identify in this zone? In this case, we did not have a viable support and resistance save for this one. So this is what we had, right? So what did price do? Price took out this resistance, right, with that move. And what did price leave behind? It left behind a fair value gap in this area, and this is what we could have traded up to this particular point. And in this case, looks like price is building up a resistance area in this area here, and we'll wait and see what price does and identify our points of interest. So let's go to some crypto. Let's look at some crypto here and see how price was behaving on Bitcoin right here. So this was around the 22nd of July this year, right? So what were you seeing? Price was just hitting this resistance level at this particular price, right? You can clearly see that this was around 63,150 here. Price was hitting it. So what were you waiting for to take this sell? You were waiting for a break, and that aggressive break came here. And if you need to see this clearly, you can go to the H1 and see how price was behaving there. So it took out this area. So where was the fair value gap in this area? The fair value gap was right there. You see, this was the fair value gap on what? On Bitcoin. And Bitcoin came back and retested that fair value gap, and look at that beautiful move that it unleashed after this was retested, as you can see, right? So in the interest of showing you something that actually happens. Let me just go to this particular pair and show you a setup that is actually in play. So this is what USDs are on TIOmarkets, as you can see. So this is the resistance zone that you are seeing. Price has retested this zone many times, right? Price has retested this zone many times. Price has taken out this zone again. So what are you waiting for? You're waiting for price to retest this order block, or you're waiting price to retest this fair value gap, and you can take this commodity down. So this is a simple setup that you can see and that you can trade. So we're waiting for price to go back to either the fair value gap or the order block, as you can see, and we are going up like that. So guys, this is what I wanted to show you, and I hope this was helpful. Support and resistance made easy. Shocks out.